A tour of Colorado in the Wild West, during the extreme winter of the 1870s. The wind doesn't knock. It tears through the wooden slats of the cabin like a living thing searching for warmth to kill. Outside, the snow has buried the wagon wheels up to their hubs, turning the main street of Georgetown into a white canyon, where only the chimney smoke proves that anything breathes below. The temperature has dropped to 20 degrees below zero. The sun, when it manages to claw through the granite clouds hanging over the Continental Divide, casts no warmth, only a pale, anemic light that makes the ice crystals suspended in the air glitter like broken glass. This is Colorado in the winter of 1876. This is the edge of America, where men came to find silver and found something else entirely, the limits of human endurance. You can smell the desperation before you see it. Wood smoke mixed with the sour tang of unwashed bodies, packed too tight in saloons that never close, because closing means freezing. The aroma of horse manure frozen solid in the streets, waiting for the brief thaw that may not come until April. And underneath it all, the metallic bite of snow so cold it doesn't feel wet. It feels like breathing shards. Welcome to the high country. Welcome to 10,000 feet above sea level, where the air is thin enough to make your heart race and your thoughts slow, where fortunes are buried under hundreds of feet of rock, and the only thing more frozen than the ground is the future of the men who came here believing in American promises. The stagecoach that brought you here yesterday, if you survived the journey, sits abandoned now at the livery stable, its wheels locked in ice that won't release them until spring. The driver, a man named Dutch Henry with frostbite scars where his left ear used to be, told you before he disappeared into the Gold Coin Saloon that this winter is different, that the old-timers, the ones who survived 72 and 74, are saying the mountains are angry, that the snow started in October and hasn't stopped, that entire mining camps up in the higher elevations have gone silent, their populations either evacuated to Denver or buried under avalanches that came down the slopes with the sound of God clearing his throat. But you came here to see the Wild West. You came here because the newspapers back east are filled with stories of Colorado Territory, soon to be a state, they say, admitted to the Union on the centennial of the Declaration of Independence. You came here because someone told you this is where America is being built, one silver vein at a time, one frozen corpse at a time, one dream at a time. The reality of the American frontier has always been a carefully constructed lie. The dime novels sold in New York and Boston speak of noble cowboys and savage Indians, of gunfights at high noon, and prostitutes with hearts of gold. They don't mention the dysentery. They don't mention the way altitude sickness makes you vomit until your ribs crack. They don't mention that in the winter of 1876, in places like Leadville and Central City and Breckenridge, the mortality rate for children under 5 is nearly 40%. That pneumonia kills more men than bullets ever will. That the real enemy isn't the Ute people being pushed off their ancestral lands, though they have every right to their rage, but the cold itself, patient and absolute. Walk with me down Harrison Avenue in Leadville, the city at the top of the world. 2 miles above sea level where even the healthy struggle to catch their breath. The buildings lean against each other like drunks, their foundations sinking unevenly into the permafrost. The streets are a chaos of frozen mud ruts that will snap a horse's leg if the rider isn't careful. Painted signs advertise assay offices, general stores, boarding houses with names like the Mountain View and Rocky Mountain Rest. False advertising, considering the view is mostly grey and the rest is fitful at best. Men move quickly between doorways, their faces wrapped in scarves, their eyes the only visible part of their humanity. Those eyes tell stories. Some still hold the fever brightness of gold lust. Others have gone dull with the realization that they will die here, that they traded everything for nothing, that the mountains keep their silver and give back only suffering. Inside the Tabor Opera House, still under construction but already hosting performances, a traveling theater company from Chicago is attempting to stage Hamlet. The irony is not lost on the miners who paid 50 cents to sit on hard benches and watch actors in heavy coats, because even indoors the temperature barely climbs above freezing, deliver Shakespeare's lines about Denmark. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, the actor playing Marcellus intones, his breath visible in the lamplight. In the audience, a man named James laughs bitterly. Something is frozen in the state of Colorado, he mutters. His claim, the resurrection mine, has been flooded since November. The pump froze solid. He has $60 to his name and a wife back in Ohio who believes he's becoming wealthy. The psychological landscape of the Colorado frontier in the 1870s is a map of delusion and determination drawn in equal measure. These are not the pastoral farmers of the Great Plains. These are not the plantation owners of the South or the factory workers of the North. These are the gamblers, the desperate, the ambitious, and the deranged. They came here because the Civil War ended and they couldn't go home, or because they had debts, or because a woman broke their heart, or because they genuinely believed that American exceptionalism meant they were entitled to wealth simply by wanting it badly enough. The winter tests this belief. The winter is the crucible that burns away fantasy and leaves only the question, what are you willing to endure for the possibility of transformation? The Chinese laborers who built the railroad tracks that snake through the mountain passes understand this question differently. Huddled in camps outside the main towns, subject to taxes specifically designed to drive them out, they endure the winter with a stoicism born from millennia of philosophical tradition. While the white miners drink themselves into stupors every night, raging against the cold and their bad luck, the Chinese workers mend their clothes, share their meager food, and wait. They know something the Americans refuse to learn, that the mountains don't care about your dreams, that nature is not manifest destiny, that survival requires community, not individualism. The Ute people, watching from the increasingly shrinking boundaries of their territory, have their own understanding. They've survived Colorado winters for 10,000 years. They know which valleys hold less wind, which caves stay above freezing, how to read the sky for the storms that will kill you if you're caught in the open. But the Treaty of 1868 is already being violated, and the silver strikes are bringing more white settlers every day. Chief Ouray, attempting to negotiate peace while his people starve on inadequate reservation lands, understands that this winter is both literal and metaphorical. The cold that's killing miners in their cabins is the same cold indifference the United States government shows to treaty obligations. The avalanches burying mining camps are the same unstoppable force burying Ute sovereignty. February 1877 arrives with a blizzard that will be remembered for generations. The Denver newspapers, when they finally receive word via telegraph, will call it the Great Leadville Storm. For 3 days and nights, the wind screams down from the peaks with such velocity that it tears roofs from buildings. The snow falls so thick that men get lost between the saloon and the boarding house 50 feet away. They find them in the morning, frozen solid in sitting positions, having simply given up and sat down to rest. The temperature drops to 40 below zero. Water thrown from a bucket freezes before it hits the ground. In these moments, class distinctions vanish. The mine owner and the laborer huddle around the same stove, burning furniture when the firewood runs out. The prostitute and the preacher's wife share blankets and body heat. Everyone understands that they are not fighting each other now. They are fighting the mountain's indifference. Some will later say that this storm forged Colorado's identity, that the people who survived it earned their right to call themselves Coloradans. But this is romanticism speaking. The truth is simpler and darker. Some lived and some died, and luck had more to do with it than virtue or strength. When spring finally comes in late April, the thaw reveals what winter buried: bodies in the high country, miners who went out to check their claims and never returned, entire herds of cattle frozen standing up in the fields, and something else, a collective trauma, unspoken but present in every survivor's eyes. They had looked into the void. They had felt the absolute power of nature, and it had reminded them that all their ambition, all their American confidence, all their technology and guns and railroads meant nothing against the simple reality of temperature and altitude. But here's what's remarkable. They stayed. The population of Leadville didn't decrease after the winter of 1876 to 1877. It increased. More people came. More silver was pulled from the ground. The railroad expanded. Colorado became a state. The myth of the West absorbed the reality of the winter and transformed it into a story about resilience rather than a warning about hubris. And in this transformation, we see something essential about the American character: the refusal to let truth interfere with narrative, the determination to interpret every disaster as a test successfully passed rather than a lesson learned. Stand now in modern Denver, in the climate-controlled museum where they've preserved artifacts from the winter of 1876. Look at the photographs, grainy and gray, showing men with dead eyes and frozen beards standing in front of buildings that no longer exist. Read the journals carefully preserved behind glass, where a woman named Catherine describes watching her children's lips turn blue from cold while she burned her husband's books to keep the stove going one more hour. Touch the glass case containing the frostbitten fingers, amputated and kept as medical specimens, of a miner named Thomas who lost both hands but survived and learned to write with a pen strapped to his wrist. What do you feel? Horror? Admiration? Both? The Colorado winter of the 1870s wasn't an anomaly. It was a revelation. It revealed that the Wild West was never wild in the sense of free. It was wild in the sense of unpredictable, uncontrollable, and utterly indifferent to human desires. The men and women who endured it weren't heroes. They were simply people who refused to leave, even when leaving was the rational choice. And in their refusal, they created something, a state, an economy, a culture. But at what cost? How many frozen children? How many amputated limbs? How many dreams buried under snow that never melted? We tell ourselves we've conquered nature now. Our buildings have central heating. Our roads are plowed. Our weather forecasts give us warning. But every winter, somewhere in the Colorado high country, the wind still tears through the mountains with that same ancient indifference. The snow still falls. And if you listen carefully, you can still hear the question that winter asked in 1876, the question it asks every year. What are you willing to sacrifice for the place you insist on calling home? I'm Atmospheric Chronicles, watching the past so we can understand the present. And together we keep history reborn. I'll see you in the next era.